everybody, this video is going to be all about matte eyeshadows. So those shadows that contain no sparkle, glitter, pearl, shimmer, anything like that. They can create a nice contrast with shimmery shades. They can also look beautiful worn alone. Matte eyeshadows can often have even more intensity than some shimmery ones do because you're just seeing all pigment and no mixture of glittery parts and this and that. I get questions from people who are, starting to get some wrinkling around the eye area, and really matte shadows, if you're going to use some eyeshadow, matte colors don't attract as much attention to wrinkles as shimmery ones can. So I think they're important to have. And also, I'm focusing on Drugstore because I just feel like matte shadows are more prevalent in high-end makeup. I feel like they're easier to come across. I mean, I just think about, okay, what high-end ones do I like? Well, I've got Urban Decay, Too Faced, Tarte, Smashbox, Mally, I've got all these different high-end brands that I can point to and say they make a good matte eyeshadow. They're not very hard to find, but in the drugstore, it's like someone will ask me, what are your favorite drugstore matte shadows? And I'm like, I really gotta think, because I can't just necessarily point someone toward one brand or one line of shadows because they're very hard to come by. And I haven't tried everything. I've tried a lot of makeup, but there's a lot out there that I have not tried. So if you know of some great matte eyeshadows, after you see what I talk about and you see what I've left out, I mean, feel free to share those in the comments section. First thing is from L'Oreal Hip, and they actually have a specific line of matte shadow duos. So they look like this. You're getting two shades together. This one that I have is called Dashing, and I got it because I thought it was really basic. They're really nicely pigmented, and I like the L'Oreal Hip, just the other duos as well. You will find scattered throughout their line, there will be some duos where there's a nice matte color paired with a shimmery shade, so if you want to do a little more digging in that whole collection, you might find more. There's this duo in Brazen that is matte brown and matte magenta. This is one of those half and halves. This is showy, and you can see a great matte blue, but then a shimmery turquoise there. Also with Rimmel, they've got some of their Glam Eyes singles that are really, really nice. Dusk is one that I enjoy, and it's like a nice matte brown, and also a matte black shade called Jet Black. I don't feel like it's the darkest black. I feel like it's actually more accurately just a very dark charcoal gray. These are matte shades that I also think are really soft, easy to work with, easy to blend, which is important with matte colors. I feel like they can be a little less forgiving if you're not really getting them blended out. So you need something that's gonna be kind of soft and easy to work with. You may also find in the CoverGirl singles a few matte shades here and there. There have been some that I've gone through and don't continue to have in my collection, but one that I currently have and I think is really great, a great just kind of essential basic shade, is this one in Brown Smolder. It's a single, you're getting a lot of product in there, and it is just a really nice matte brown, very deep. It can be that great contour shade, that great smudgy liner. In terms of CoverGirl quads, you're not gonna find like purely matte quads. I looked at all of mine and I found at least a little shimmer in some of the shades, so I really couldn't consider them totally matte. Mannix is another brand to look to for a lot of color variety. They have their singles, they have different palettes. I find their shadows really great to work with. A little bit goes a long way. Sometimes you tap into some of the shadows and they get a little powdery, but all in all, if you use them kind of lightly, I think they're fine, and I think they have put off a lot of color, and again, a lot of color variety. There are palettes that you can look to. But Naked Eyes palette is nice. I would say about 7 of these shades I think are matte. There's 15 colors total. Getting like, matte cream shades, medium shades, there's a deeper brown and a black. I just wanted to point that out because I think sometimes palettes like this can be a better value than just buying a bunch of singles anyway. Gotta mention Wet n Wild, although I don't want you to get frustrated. I'm not sure how much of this is still available in your stores. I know they put out an I Love Matte palette. I think it was only in Walgreens stores. I haven't made a point to check and see if it's still out in my store, but this is an entirely matte palette. 4 matte neutrals, 4 matte, well, I guess 3 matte colors and a light shade there at the top, but I mean, no shimmer in these whatsoever. They have the great quality that I now have come to expect from Wet n Wild shadows. But again, I wish they made something like that permanent. I'm fearing that not a lot of people are going to be able to find that, but I wanted to give it a mention in case maybe there is somewhere that you can find that if you search online. Another thing that I believe is a discontinued Wet n Wild thing, but there may be some lingering palettes still in your store. They are the 6-color palettes, and half of these will be matte. So like this is Vanity. You've got half shimmer, half matte. This is the plummy colored one called Lust, I believe. Yeah. Half is matte. Here and there in some other palettes, I know there's a great black in the Blue Had Me at Hello palette, but they're just not as easy to come by as the shimmery shades are, and I wish that could change. So I guess what you can gather from this video is it's not easy to find a lot of matte shadows in the drugstore, and there are still more in my collection that I have, but then I don't necessarily think they're the best or something I could recommend because the color payoff isn't good, or they're really dry and chalky and hard to blend, and different factors like that. So what I told you about was what I would recommend to you, not simply what exists, but what I actually like. I don't own just a ton of colorful matte drugstore shadows, but there may be more out there in some of the lines that I mentioned, so just something to look for. I know this doesn't necessarily qualify in this video because these palettes don't come from the drugstore, but Coastal Scents has a ton of palettes and a lot of matte shadows. If you're looking to really stock up, the prices are pretty good. I mean, you're talking between 20, 25 bucks for a palette with 88 shades, or, you know, just different variations. They have some deals where you can get like a bundle of palettes, like 2 palettes, and they take down the price a little bit. They have a 42 color double stack palette that has this whole tray here of matte eyeshadows, and then you've got not only that, but a bunch of blushes in there. The 36 Smoky palette that I've mentioned numerous times is probably about half matte shadows and half shimmer. And then where neutrals are concerned, the 88 Warm palette is just wonderful. There's a lot of matte. There's also shimmer, but if you're looking for matte neutral basics, there's a lot there too. So I hope this video gave you at least a few ideas of where to turn if you're looking for matte shadows in the drugstore. I wish I could have given even more recommendations, but the fact of the matter is there's just not a whole lot out there. There are vastly more shimmery shades in the drugstore than there are matte. I would imagine maybe with not adding a lot of fillers and glitters and things like that, maybe it's more expensive to produce these matte shades, but whatever the case may be, this is what we've got for now. Write to your favorite makeup company and ask them to make some more matte shades, I guess. But thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.